Hello and welcome to day 3 of Liverpool Fashion Summit. Today we're talking about sustainability and we are with Hasna Kourda, co-founder of Save Your Wardrobe. Hello Hasna, thank you for
Hi,
joining us today.
pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So could you tell us a bit about how Save Your Wardrobe was born?
Yeah, sure. So, Save Your Wardrobe is the uh, basically the an inspiration of how I grew up and my background. So, I'm Tunisian. I grew up in and lived in Tunisia until 19 years old. And the thing that is really interesting in my upbringing is that my family has deeply anchored values around sustainability, circularity, and resource optimization. It was really due to the fact that they were living in an island in the south of the country, and the structure of it had made them make sure that the resources were evenly distributed throughout the year and season. And for that, to achieve those results, they've been pioneering technologies and techniques as well to collect water, to build also renewable energies. And the great thing is that uh, they've scaled that to a large part of the country. So and also I'm the daughter of lots of entrepreneurs, and yeah, so I got inspiration from them. My father brought for the first time in the country the first economy saving energy um, uh, devices for and so he covered the country with that. My older brother is working in renewable energy as well with photovoltaic. So I have I
It's in
have
your
this,
veins.
yeah, exactly. And so what inspired Sylvia Wardrobe is that after graduating from high school, I moved to Europe to finish my studies. And it was in the early 2000s when fast fashion was just at the rise, and it wasn't as this quick and fast-paced industry. And yet, I was really surprised to see how people were engaging and how quickly they were buying things, not really to fulfill a need, but just to have that social activity, that kind of adrenaline. And I was really surprised to see that. And it was my first kind of encounter with the Western way of consumption. And then moving to London, I've realized that same issue at a whole other scale. And and with my background in economics and corporate strategy, we had to see and analyze how technologies can bring those novelties and innovations. So we had to do that for other industries, but then I thought that the fashion industry was lacking that digital transformation and also tech usage and optimization actually. So I thought, why not try my luck and see from a consumption point of view, how can we help people make the most of what they buy and understand a little bit better their purchasing behaviors.
And well, you mentioned it. I've read the story of your grandmother
Yeah,
on your website, and it made me connect with my great grandmother. She was also a
yeah.
super advocate of circular economy. Everything had 10 lives or even more if you could. And
And I think my grandmother would be the same age as your great grandmother because I'm the youngest of 8 children, and yeah, so there's a bit of a generation gap.
the thing is like that was their lifestyle.
Exactly,
That's the way they understood life. There
exactly,
was no other way. The resources were the ones they had, and they had to make them last. Do
exactly.
you think that this fast pace of fast fashion has made us just forget about those principles or values and the common sense that our grandmothers had?
Yeah. I think for the past 20 years, we've been educated differently on our education with prices that are lower and lower, accessible fashion that are not really sustainable or that is at least resource extensive, and this is completely disconnected from the real life, and that is where in those 20 years we've been a bit disconnected from what our grandparents used to do. But still, I think that it's not it can be reversed, and I'm really hopeful and to see how younger generations are behaving and changing their consumption habits, leaning towards new circular business models, and buying from secondhand, for example. And so that makes me think that the fast fashion industry will have at some point to regenerate itself in order to meet the new generation and a new wave of consumption.
So the pandemic has changed the way we consume,
Yeah.
and hopefully, after the pandemic is gone, things will remain the same. But do you think after restrictions will be eased, that we'll still behave as
Yeah.
conscious consumers?
Yeah. So yeah, to answer your question, I think the best way is to talk about a research we did with the University of Glasgow. And so it's called Digitalizing the Sustainable Clothing Consumption. We started it in between 2018 and 2019, and then we did a second one, a more in-depth one during lockdown. And the first preliminary research showed that people were listening to the sustainable conversation, but still saying that as long as it doesn't disrupt my lifestyle, I'm happy to engage with it. But at the same time, they are confessing receiving packages from fast fashion and not wearing things that they have as much as they should. And the second the second research that happened during the lockdown has shown a complete different attitude to consumption, saying that the hierarchy is completely different. So people were kind of doing a retrospective on what they have, looking at what they own already, and buying differently, privileging secondhand, for example, or repairs or mending to bring back to life things that they have already in their wardrobe. And from a metric point of view, what we saw as well is that our app, which launched actually during confinement and just 2 weeks before lockdown, we didn't plan for that, and we weren't expecting this global pandemic. But yeah, so just as we launched the app, we had a great growth, and people were at home and they were actively decluttering their wardrobes, inventorying it, and doing this kind of inventory and introspection on what they have in their wardrobe. Um, and also the other thing that really struck me was a change of lexicon, where they used to say before confinement that their purchasing behaviors were spontaneous, compulsive, fear of missing out on the trend. Here in the second version, they were more confessing that they were organizing for sustainability, planifying, hunting for pieces that they consciously are waiting for or identified as a need. And that shows how the pace has slowed down. And to answer your question more directly around what will happen after, I think it would be interesting to look at different generations. So I think that the Gen X and the older millennials will look at a new kind of freedom. Let me go out and and make up for all the time that I've lost and all the trends that I missed. And then younger generation Gen Zs are more engaging with a totally new type of consumption, more related to thrift flipping, for example. So buying from secondhand and then empowering themselves with new skills to bring things that are really one of a kind and that they only have in their wardrobe. So the approach to consumption and ownership is different, and I think and I truly believe that Gen Z will keep with their slower consumption, but maybe millennials and Gen X will keep with that and say um, they are less in touch with sustainability. It's more a conversation that they engage with rather than an action or something that they really do.
It's funny you mentioned that younger generations are looking for new skills to
Yeah,
upcycle or mend their clothes. That's something that you used to learn from your mom or your grandmom,
oh,
and
yeah,
now you go on YouTube to check. Okay, how can I mend this?
exactly. Yeah,
And well, it's one of the good things of technology, of social media, that are enabling this change and are disrupting the way we connect with knowledge and with other people.
yeah,
And well, Save Your Wardrobe is an example, and you mentioned it at the very beginning how your father brought technology. And
exactly. Yeah,
do you think this, like, we are too dependent on this technology to get to that knowledge now, or is it good that we still got the technology and we still got the human contact?
yeah,
We pre-pandemic, but hopefully we'll have human contact again to share
yeah,
knowledge.
yeah. That's a really great question around in between generations skills and knowledge sharing, and not everyone has access to a grandmother or a mother that owned those skills and know and has the know-how, and the beauty of technology like you mentioned, and sharing these type of things on YouTube or any other video platform, is that you can learn by yourself, and you can learn even outside of your culture and learn things that even from me as a Tunisian I wouldn't know, or and also by the way, crochet, there are techniques of crochet that are called Tunisian crochet that you can learn, and just by sitting in another country. So it's the beauty of connecting people wherever they are in the world, and when you don't have access to that know-how, and you can build that knowledge and build that your own database of things that you can do, just looking at things and reiterating. And I feel like it can be done in an offline and online way with especially after COVID, where I see the potential of local communities come together into small workshops, and just gather in a cafe or something, and exchange techniques even though they don't know each other. But how will they gather and connect? It will be online, and then meet some kind of cafe or a place. But that that was almost lost in this fast fashion race to be stylish, and throwaway culture hasn't helped. And I think that buying cheap clothing doesn't really also help people commit to what they own, and commit in terms of repairs or in terms of extending the life of things. And it's so easy to buy a replacement instead of caring for it.
Well, and Save Your Wardrobe, it's, as you mentioned, the study you did with University of Glasgow. It's an example of how important is self-reflection and
Exactly.
stopping and thinking, okay, what do I have, and do I need all these, or do I need to buy new things? But are we as consumers in general more like ready to make more conscious choices and to consume in a more sustainable way? Because of course we have now this pandemic, and we were talking about younger generations engaging actively, but overall, are we actually ready, or is just like small group that is engaging with these practices?
Not that, yeah, I understand your question, and this whole lockdown has played a catalyst effect on adoption of technologies and education around things. Um, and I was reading on The Economist that 4 years worth of innovation would be adopted in a matter of 18 months. So I feel like this is made to last and beyond the lockdown and beyond this pandemic, and yeah, the influence that the younger generation is having on demanding things and claiming and questioning brands on their processes and operation and transparency is also something that brands are realizing that they need to step up, and many of them are doing that. Not all, but many. um, but but I don't think still that it's a niche, and I'm seeing as well around me that Gen X or older millennials are actually really surprised to see how their older children are behaving, and they are starting to question themselves. And from our point of view and what we see in Save Your Wardrobe, from either qualitative data or quantitative data, is that um, there is this interest in changing and being taken care. It's just like that inflection point when we started eating healthy and organic. It's exactly the same, but just on how to dress and how to care for the planet, and how can we each at our own level bring something to the table and to the action. um, it's it's definitely bigger than what it used to be in 2017 when we launched, and I'm hoping that it's going in that direction. But it will only go there if we adopt technology and if we automate things and optimize things. As long as we still rely on manual processes and heavy extensive resource productions, just at the end of the day, consumers and brands will be interested by the price point. And if they had to select between two brands, one that is probably greenwashing and one that is generally sustainable, at the end of the day, the price will make the decision. And this is also the reason why I truly believe that technology is here to optimize that and to reduce costs and bring more quality of life for workers, and also better innovations for the consumption for the consumer experience.
Thank you so much, Hasna. It's been just amazing.
Really glad. I
uh,
hope. Yeah,
yeah, I think like, well, I feel really connected to your story, as I said, because of my family. We
yeah,
also love like reusing and
yeah,
repurposing everything.
yeah.
And thank you so much for
Absolute
bringing your
pleasure.
voice.
No, absolute pleasure, and I'm really passionate about sharing that part of my culture and the way I grew up, and how my family managed to scale that beyond their own island, and take that as well to other countries. And I feel like it's what we need now, and we need to learn from our elders and past generation in order to regenerate the future and think about future generations. So I'm really passionate about it, and I'm especially more passionate if a technology can play a big role of an enabler for this.